So today, we're going to connect two documents that, on the surface, seem like they have absolutely nothing to do with each other. One is a brand new scientific discovery about microbes, published in a major peer-reviewed journal. The other, it's a way more speculative white paper that lays out a metaphysical blueprint for, well, for reality itself. Let's see how they link up. We may build God through kissing. Okay, let's just start there. That is a bold, wild statement. And it's really the idea that acts as a bridge between these two white papers. It suggests that a simple, everyday act of human connection might have, well, cosmic significance. We are definitely going to unpack what that means. All right, first things first. Let's ground ourselves in some hard science. Our journey actually begins inside the human mouth, with a pretty amazing discovery that was just published in the journal Nature Communications. This is the real, verifiable data that everything else we're going to talk about is built on. So what did researchers find? They found something they've named an inocule. And you can think of it as a huge, previously unknown library of genetic instructions found in the bacteria floating around in our saliva. Now, this isn't our DNA. It's a shared genetic resource that these little microbes are constantly swapping. But here's what's so striking: the sheer scale of this thing. You see, a plasmid is a tiny packet of mobile DNA that bacteria use to share useful genes. But as you can see right here, the inocule is just massive in comparison. It carries way more information than we ever thought was possible for these kinds of genetic elements. And this chart just drives that point home. An inocule can carry up to 35 times more genetic data than a typical plasmid. I mean, this is not a small discovery. This is like finding a whole new, unread volume in the encyclopedia of life. It points to this huge amount of microbial dark matter that we're only just now beginning to understand. And right here, this is where that first white paper takes a huge speculative leap. We're moving away from the hard science of what an inocule is and into a much more philosophical hypothesis about what it could represent. You see, it's all about a shift in perspective. Scientifically, you'd call all this shared genetic data a metagenome, right? It's a collective memory, a survival guide for these microbes. But the white paper proposes a symbolic view. What if this shared evolving code is something more, like a living scripture, the genetic handwriting of the divine? And then the paper does something really interesting. It looks back at these ancient rituals through this new biological lens. Things like the holy kiss in early Christian texts or the Tibetan touching of tongues. It reframes them completely. What if these weren't just symbolic gestures? What if they were incredibly functional acts of biological communion, a literal way to physically share the sacred, adaptive library of life? So hold on to that idea of a shared underlying code, because that's the perfect bridge to our second white paper. It takes this core concept and zooms it out from the biological to the cosmological. We're going from the world of a microbe to a proposed schematic for reality itself, and it's all built on a fractal pattern. The model starts incredibly simple with a binary system. 1 represents something that exists. But here's the cool part. 0 isn't nothingness. In this model, it's the space of pure possibility, the potential for change. So the most fundamental piece of reality in this view is just the difference between what is and what could be. And with each new layer, you get more complexity. So at the next level, the 1s are now defined by their relationship to the 2s all around them. This is how you get context. An event isn't just an event anymore. It's defined by its surroundings. It becomes an individual thing, totally distinct from its environment. Okay, so what's the point of this really complex fractal map? Well, the white paper suggests that if reality really does have an underlying code like this, then that code could give us a brand new way of looking at some of the most stubborn, enduring paradoxes in all of philosophy and physics. Let's start with a total classic, a real brain bender, the bootstrap paradox. You've heard this one. Imagine a time traveler gives Shakespeare a book of all his future plays. Shakespeare just copies them out, they become famous. So who actually wrote them? The information is just stuck in this closed loop with no clear starting point. So how does this framework solve that? Well, it suggests the origin isn't inside the time loop at all. It's outside. The idea is that the information wasn't self-creating. It was intentionally placed into the timeline by some higher intelligence to guide events. So the origin isn't missing, it's divine. All right, next up, the simulation paradox. You might know it as the turtles all the way down problem. If our reality is just a simulation, Couldn't our simulators also be in a simulation? And their simulators too, and on forever? So, where does it all stop? What is the base reality? The model's answer here is pretty mind-bending. It basically says, embrace the infinite loop. In a fractal reality, there is no base level. The layers are endless, just like a fractal pattern. So the paradox isn't a problem we need to solve, it's just a feature of reality structure. Asking where it all begins is just asking the wrong question. So let's just take a step back. We have gone from the microscopic world inside our own mouths all the way out to a model for the entire cosmos. What is the common thread? What really connects these two very different white papers? We've really followed a clear progression of ideas here. First, there was a tangible scientific discovery, the Inakeel. Second, we took a big philosophical leap, and we viewed that shared biological data as a kind of collective, sacred intelligence. And third, we took that core idea of an underlying code and just scaled it all the way up to a universal model of reality. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Both of these white papers, in their own way, describe a kind of hidden code that underpins our existence. One is biological, the other is metaphysical. So, if a blueprint for reality like this really does exist, what's our role in it? Are we simply here to read the script, or do we actually have a hand in writing?